counting down like a weirdo. We've never done that before.
Oh, we're recording.
All right, ladies and gents, we've recorded, and apparently this is the time we've decided to go all profesh with our countdowns and our no audible.
Hey, we're not using cardboard boxes full of
That's true.
cut up foam now. We have
Hand motions really sell it.
yeah.
These are fancy toner enclosures. Enclosures.
Yeah.
I tried being all fancy.
We are masters of the English language.
Oh man, they do look really nice though. I'm really happy about that.
See if they work.
Yeah, well, we'll see. And then we move up on the audio, and then we move down on the visual with our sign. So, well, I'll send a photo out there. I'll let you guys see. It's pretty great. I might even put it on the slideshow.
Please don't. What are we doing today?
Well, let me talk about the slideshow first, though.
Oh, okay? Talk about it.
Because people might not know this because it literally just happened. So I'm going to let them know now.
Cool.
What I've done is actually during the weeks the podcasts come out, I go on the Discord and I go to like the lobby. I go to the works in progress and the finished works channels of the Hobby House Discord, and I gather all of the photos, and then I put them in a slideshow on the YouTube, and Spotify actually has video podcast as well. So in the background, we just have a cycling of the photos. And sometimes if there's not that much, we recycle those, I guess. Anyway, so there's people's submitted work. So if you want to have your stuff shown in the background while we're talking, then go to one of those three channels, which is the lobby, finished works, or works in progress, and then submit your photos, and we'll slap up on the screen.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool way to bring some attention to other people's work.
Yeah.
While listening to the podcast.
Well, I used to do that when we had like sub 50 people in the Discord, and every week I'd gather all the pictures, I'd put it in this PowerPoint presentation, and then and then I would make a video. But now that we have hundreds of people, it's a little more difficult to do that. So this way I can just kind of put some filters in there, copy all the photos, put it up there, and it's still a way of engaging, but it's also not like a humongous, massive video. I don't know.
Huge production.
Exactly.
Huge.
It's going to be huge. So let me just roll right into the prompt, shall I? Okay, this was actually submitted by QT from One Page Rules Discord server. And I'm not sure if it's a he, they, it's just a Q and a T. There's not this individual. QT. Okay. Thank you for the submission, number one. Number two, they wanted us to talk about competitions, and then I've also added in commissions because it's a very similar mindset. Some ways to, number one, acknowledge and deal with your fear of either entering a competition or starting to paint for commission. Ways to prep for that.
Yeah.
How to handle criticism, and then some tips that I have, being both someone who's ran competitions or participated in competitions as well as a commission painter, things that I have found, especially when dealing with like customers or timelines, things like that. So that's the prompt. And I'm really excited because I think it's very in line with why I started the Discord to begin with. The whole reason I started it was to talk about helping people like overcome their fears of trying something, right? And so if you're not into commission painting, but you really want to, if you're not into competitions, but you really want to, like maybe we can help give you that confidence in kind of a vacuum almost, it's never like fluffing people up, right? We still obviously give them helpful tips and hints, but it's in an atmosphere where there's no real weight of like competition, right? It's a friendly arena, a friendly sphere. And that's kind of why we do that. So this, I felt, is actually really, really in sync with the whole Hobby House Discord in general.
Right.
So when it comes to fear of keeping you out of competitions or painting for commissions, basically it all boils down to fear or lack of confidence in self, right? Fear of not being good enough, right?
Right.
And so let's tackle that real quick. Let's kind of tackle how that looks and then ways to kind of overcome that, or at least helpful mental realizations that can get us out of that kind of that weird cycle.
Yeah. Well, I don't have a ton of experience, as you know. Like, I've never done painting competition, and I've never done commissions, and I don't paint very often, so I'm highly qualified to talk about this subject.
Please do. Expert here, certified.
No, but I mean, I can speak to it from just a developmental standpoint, and because I struggle with it personally. I'm kind of somewhat of a perfectionist type person, but one of the traits that I really don't like about myself is that if I see somebody who does something really, really, really well, it tends to discourage me from wanting to do it myself because I know I can't reach that level instantly, right? Like, and that's a really immature mindset, and I have to battle that because then I don't want to try or I will try, but then when it doesn't match up to somebody, which reasonably, right? Like, they've been doing it for so much longer, or they're just way more skilled in that area, whatever it is, then instead of being inspired, it's intimidating, right? And that's where you get into the whole the fear of not measuring up, because you're measuring yourself against other people, whereas especially in something as personal as a skill, like a life skill, like the ability to paint, you should be measuring your progress against you, and how far you've come.
So that's first tip right there. Is don't compare yourself to professionals. Don't compare yourself to people who have years of experience.
Right. Well, and it's one thing to get techniques and tips and I mean, to learn from them. But it's a whole nother thing to try to compare your end product to theirs. Unless you have the mindset of, I want to get there.
How can I get better?
Right. And that's a mindset thing. Is that positivity of, I can reach that level. I'm determined to reach that level versus I'm not anywhere close, and the amount of work I have to put in to get there, I don't know if I ever could. So I'm not going to try.
But it has to be through the mindset of inspiration as opposed to like competition.
Intimidation. Or competition. Exactly. Now you've done it. You've done competition. So what did you find? What was your emotions like before you got into it? What were
Well, the thing is, number one, I knew going into it that I already knew some of the people that were in the competition, and I already knew that they were way better than me. Okay, so that was going into it with it's a realistic mindset.
Right.
It's a realistic expectation of, I want this to push me to do my very best. However, my very best versus someone who's been doing this for years and been in multiple competitions is not the same. But if I could go into this competition giving it my best, spending the most amount of time working really hard on transitions and blending and contrast, and then at the end, if I knew like, man, I spent all my time on that, I spent all this effort, and that was the best I could do, then I walk away knowing that like I wouldn't have tried that hard if I weren't in a competition. Like, I didn't have the expectation to win.
So you had the motivational mindset as opposed to the discouragement mindset, right?
I wanted the boundaries of the competition to push me to try something I've never tried before, to work within a timeline that I have never had for myself before, and to be judged against other people, right? And so for me, it was almost like a progress report, a status, right?
Right.
I've never done it before. Where do I match up?
Right.
And so it was actually really fun. The feedback I got was, I knew some of the areas I struggled, and I was complimented in areas that I felt I did well. And it's all just time behind the brush, time behind the desk, trying new things, being comfortable, stretching, all these things, right? But you're not going to really know that until you're forced to be in that position.
Right. Well, and I think personality traits play a lot into this, because in that area we're pretty opposite, where you are like skydiving, sure, and you go jump out of the plane and somebody's like, oh, here's your parachute, and you're like, oh, okay, you grab it and then you fly out, right?
Before, yeah.
You know, and I'm definitely more the like, I don't want to die and look like an idiot doing it. So I'm like triple checking my pack before I go. And then I'm like, hey, can I have your pack too? Because, you know,
you just want to get on the plane.
2 packs is better, right? Yeah. And then I don't end up being on the plane, right? I'm just walking around with 2 parachutes looking like an idiot. But
you're safe.
Right.
If you trip, you're good to go.
But I think if we can go a little deeper.
Oh, please do.
Just a little deeper.
Put on your mining caps, folks. Get
scuba gear. Here we go.
Oh, underwater?
Oh, deeper, dude. We're spelunking.
Spelunking underwater.
Which is even more specific because I think that's caves. But
it's an underwater cave. It's dark. It's wet. It's scary. Let's go.
Spiraling out of control. But it's important that you identify, like using emotional intelligence, you identify in yourself which one of those 2 extremes or in between you are.
Yeah.
Right? So for you went into it knowing, hey, these guys are way better than me, but I'm just going to dive in, right? And for me, that would be a lot more intimidating,
right?
Just because that's my personality, right? And so if you are the type of person that does find that kind of thing more intimidating, I think those are going to be the type of people that won't just jump in and participate, right?
Right.
And need that little extra, hey, do it. It may be uncomfortable, but stepping out of your comfort zone is how you grow.
Right.
Whereas people like you, they're going to do it anyways.
Right.
They want to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
They're the kind of people that set up a YouTube channel about how to paint something, and then while they're setting it up, and while something like they're looking at how do I paint that thing, like how do I paint that?
Right.
Oh, okay. And then I teach everyone like I literally just discovered the formula.
Yeah.
And so I think something would be kind of good, since we are very different, right? We can look at these situations, and here's how I would handle it, and then here's how you would handle that, right? That's kind of a good, because we are very different. I'm definitely an optimist. I'm definitely the one who sees that end goal and is running on top of everything to get there, not understanding the pitfalls. And then you are someone that takes the time to survey the surroundings. You understand all the pitfalls. And sometimes that kind of discourages you, or it's like, it's not, the end goal isn't really what you're focusing on. And so there's enough there to discourage you from
there are a lot of chances missed because the pitfall list gets big enough that then it's like, nope, not going to do it. Too many right? Whereas, like, you have to be okay failing.
But then on my situation, there's a lot of times you fail when you didn't expect to, where you didn't think the failure was going to be that hard.
Right.
Or just like, man, that was a lot of hurdles that I didn't anticipate having to go through.
Right.
And so one way that someone like you could push themselves or enter a competition would be like go on the Discord, right? Because we have friendly, community-led painting competitions where, like, sure, you might get like a free STL, but it's not like $1,500 on the line or a 3D printer.
Yeah.
Now, would we like to get there eventually? Would we like to host bigger? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But only if we can keep that same feel. Only if we can keep the same community, right? Because at the end of the day, it's more important that you are growing. It's more important that you are comfortable and you are confident to try the next thing, even if you fail, than to be pushed outside of your comfort zone, fail, and then have that be like a reason you never try again.
Right. Now, and again, like with everything, there's balance, right? Like you have the one extreme of looking at all the pitfalls and looking at none of the pitfalls. And in this, you have the extremes too. Like you want to create a community that is selfless. And what I mean by that is like they have the best interest of others in mind, right? That mentality, as in if somebody posts something and they're looking for feedback, right? You give honest feedback, but in a way that is helpful and not, crushing. Right. Yeah. But at the same time, the person asking for feedback has to be able to take the feedback, right? If you ask for don't ask questions you don't want answers to, right? And so there's with everything, there's this like middle ground that's a healthy middle ground.
Well, that definitely goes to the next spot is how do you handle criticism? How do you handle not getting the feedback you were looking for?
Not
right?
The opposite of praise.
Yeah. Well, and I think that comes with being realistic. Number one, like having a subjective outlook on what you're trying to do. Like I'm looking for actual
a subjective or objective.
One of the objectives.
Okay.
Sub or
okay.
ob.
We've got objective.
It's one of the objectives. One of the objectives. Whichever one means not looking at it and taking it personally. Personally, here's the deal. I can't really speak right now because my sinuses have decided to treat my face like a pressure cooker. So I'm using words that don't exist. Okay. I'm adding adjectives where they don't belong.
All right, to be objective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To eject yourself from the thing. Exactly. That's the one. Objective, yes. So when you submit it and you ask for feedback, understand that, like, take stock of yourself, your time, your abilities, and understand that somebody who's critiquing you, feedback, whatever, they might have significantly more time behind the brush. They might have won awards. They might, with the cool thing with the Discord is that we have all kinds of people. We have White Dwarf sponsored artists, and we have someone who literally just assembled their first models last week. Fish Eyes, I'm talking about you. That's awesome. And that's the exact kind of community we want. We want people who've been there for years.
Get the full spectrum
to be
of
there and help. Like, it's exciting seeing someone else's excitement assembling their first models.
Right.
Because, I mean, we've done it for a few years, but imagine being 30 years and you've done that with your kids. You've done that with maybe your grandkids. And now you're seeing someone else you don't know in a different country you don't know. Like, they're assembling their first model, happening to be the same model you assembled for the first. Like, it's such this, like, interconnected web of just community that is really exciting.
Yeah.
And so when you are submitting things for feedback, look at it through the eyes of opportunity, right? Don't take it personally. And there's an art to it, right? There's an art to giving feedback and receiving feedback. When receiving feedback, look at every single thing and say, like, how can I grow? How can this be used to put, like, maybe they have a technique that you never thought about doing. Well, don't let them saying, here's a way to improve, be translated to, you suck, right? And if someone says you suck, that's not feedback. That's opinion. That's not criticism. Or that's not critique. That's not feedback for improvement or growth.
Yeah.
So it's two sides of the coin, right? So how, and I'm very optimistic. I'm always looking for the next lesson. I'm always looking for growth. I'm always looking for, like, something else. So is that something where we differ too? And that if you receive feedback that maybe you weren't looking, that you weren't expecting, like, how would someone?
Yeah.
Like you went out on the limb, you took a chance, you weren't really comfortable doing it, you submitted the thing, and then you got feedback that you weren't really excited about. How does someone like you handle that?
Yeah. Well, so my goal in doing something, and again, the challenge, is to do it so well that there is no negative feedback.
Right.
Right. Now, understanding in life, that's just, there's always something you can get better at. And so, but again, that is a character trait which can freeze you at the beginning and you never take the next step.
Right.
Because you never get the product out. Like, I've worked on YouTube stuff for a long time, and I have a huge hard drive, full of videos, right, that I've never posted.
Right.
And I've spent hours and hours and hours editing, and I could not get it to that point where I wanted to get it out, right? And, you know, that over the years, that's really kind of dawned on me as that's something that holds me back. That holds me back in all areas of life, right? Because that's something I have to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
I would consider that a weakness, right? You can take the good parts and turn it into a strength,
Right.
but the fear of not being perfect,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think for somebody who is like-minded in their personality, you're going to have to, well, for one, you have to be okay with feedback.
Right.
Right. And I think feedback, a lot of that has to do with pride.
Mm-hmm.
And we all have pride, and we all, to some extent or another, struggle with, the self, the inner self, and having somebody tell us something that, especially, we weren't expecting.
Right.
We're blindsided
Mm-hmm.
by, and how we deal with that. And I think, for somebody who has kind of that personality trait where they want perfection in everything, but that's just not reasonable,
Mm-hmm.
you have to really be okay having somebody say, it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's like one of the worst things.
Yeah.
Like you can
That's
hear.
cute.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Like I make a video, and if I show my wife, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we get to the end, I said, what do you think? And she goes, it was fine. You might as well. Okay,
Pregnant
boom.
Pause. Yeah, delete. Format.
Yeah,
C.
format C.
Yeah,
It's done.
exactly.
Okay, the whole thing sucked.
Yeah.
Start over. So like just like with the previous like there's a balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Use that drive for perfection to get better, but then be willing to kind of put that away to take the feedback.
Right.
Right.
Now, obviously, we can't just say like, get over yourself, like.
I mean, that can.
Right. If we want literally no one to show up. But so someone like my personality, how can someone like my personality help? Like because I like helping people. But a lot of times I come across as pushy. I come across as like tugging you beyond your comfort zone. Is there a way that someone with like me, could be helpful? Like, helping someone who's hesitant take that step without there being a risk. Because I think that is kind of the biggest issue, right? It's the risk.
Yeah.
It's the risk of failure, the risk of exposing yourself as someone who's not as good as someone else, right? It's pride.
Yeah.
But how can someone like me mitigate the risk? Is it just like making sure we temper our feedback to where there's 3 positives to every negative?
Spoon feed it, baby. Spoon feed. No. Well, so like, let's call your personality A. Puppy?
Yeah.
Personality A.
Yeah.
And I'm B, right?
Yeah. Cat.
So
Grumpy cat.
if you're a B type person,
Yeah.
B cat, grumpy old man. If you're a B type person, you need to find yourself a Trevor, right?
Yeah.
You just do. You need to find yourself an A type person because they will help push you and grow you, and they will run headlong into stuff. And especially when you're tied into like a business or something like that, and you are just yoinked.
Yeeted across.
Yeeted with them, right? But at the same time, you are looking at everything and going, turn left, there's a giant hole, my dude.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're like, what? Sweet. Bank left, right?
Yeah.
And so it's this really good dynamic of where somebody like you who wants to encourage people and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, obviously, give feedback graciously.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just kind of a basic, like, if you want to help somebody, be gracious with your feedback. I think people already know that, right? Give honest feedback, but be gracious with it. See, my problem is often I'm not honest enough. Like, and somebody with your personality, like what I've always appreciated about our friendship is that you're never harsh with your observations, but you don't sugarcoat them. Right? And I tend to be kind of a people pleaser. And so it's like, oh, how'd I do on this? It's like, I could say some things, but I'm not sure you'd like it. So you did great. Right? But that's not really fair to the person. Right. If they're truly looking for feedback, that's not fair to them. So, I don't know. Does that answer the question?
So if you're Garfield, look for an Odie, right?
Yeah.
So,
sure.
and I'll tell you right now that there's enough of this Odie to go around to a Discord full of Garfields.
There is. That's why it exists, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what it is that we will, and an Odie and an Odie is just a fun time. Everyone's having fun. It's nuts. It's chaos. Nothing really gets accomplished, but and someone like me, and I'll I'll pat your back now. Someone like me, we need people like you to keep us grounded. We need people that have a grasp on reality, because that's my biggest thing. Is I'm a dreamer. I am someone that always is looking for like the next. Ooh, what's this? Chase that. Shiny things. Squirrel. Like that's me. That's me with a B. That is me. That is who I am as a human being. Right. I am someone that's always been like that. And so, I have you, my best friend, and then my wife, who are very similar in that you are realists. I would never consider you guys pessimists, because I feel that you have a solid grasp on reality.
Highly jaded, maybe?
No. Well, that's only on some things. Like great movies or exciting opportunities. Yes, yeah. Very jaded.
Marvel movies are amazing. Anyways.
But no, having people to help keep us grounded is necessary as well, right. Because if you're only with people that are all woohoo, you're not ever really being challenged.
Right.
You're not ever really being forced to accept the reality of life. Like, hey, that's awesome. You did a great job, but here are some things you could do better.
Well, would you say a pitfall of that is not finishing something?
Absolutely.
Right.
It's biting off more than you can chew. It's chasing something down. It's realizing that was harder than I thought. Next thing, and don't look in my cupboards. Do not look at my unfinished projects. Do not look at, you know what I mean? That's the thing. I get this, I got a Primark. Awesome. Assembled. Oh, wow. That's going to be really difficult. Put them back in the cupboard. Like
back in the cupboard it goes.
Exactly. So, you're chasing a feeling. You're chasing a high. You're chasing a end goal. But then the reality is that end goal is going to take a long time. So I'm sprinting full on. Yeah.
It's the stairs in Mario, right? Mario 64, where they just go and go and go and go and go. And it's like, I can see the end goal. Yeah. Why is it not getting closer?
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, that's good. I mean, Garfield's find your Odies.
Garfield's find your
What's
Odies.
next? Okay. So then we have ways to prep. So and right now we've been focusing mostly on competitions, but the same thing kind of goes for commissions too, right? It's just a different level of involvement and engagement. So, competitions, you're competing against other people to see who's better. Commissions, you're working to someone else's timeline. You're working to someone else's criteria, to someone else's judgment.
Yeah.
It's nice that there's only one judge. So as long as you can figure out what they like, you will know what they like across the board.
Right.
That being said, generally for commissions, it's not just one piece. It's an army.
Right.
Right. So now your whole triangle has changed. Your whole, what you're focusing on is way different. So for commissions, just hitting these topics real quick, fear of commissions, it comes down to, are you good enough? That's the fear, right?
Right.
To which I say, you never know when someone is willing to take a chance.
Right.
If Zach, if you're listening, dude, thank you so much for taking a chance. I posted a picture of a space marine, of a space wolf that I posted on Instagram, and he said, hey, what would you think about painting someone some models for me? Sure. I mean, I'd only been painting for probably 6 months at the time. And we talked about before, I was high on my own fumes. So the last thing I needed was someone willing to give me money to say, but looking back at it, they were not that good. They were not anywhere near where they are now. And right now is nowhere near where it's going to be 5 years from now.
Right. But you took the leap.
Of course I took the leap.
Obviously.
Go ahead, show me your surprised face when I said I took the leap. No, I jumped head first, no bungee, nothing. I was gone. But because of that, I had a couple kill team size groups, and then it was a massive army. And I'm still painting for him. And he keeps adding models now to that same army.
Yes. Thank you, Sugar Daddy Zach.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No. Sugar Daddy Zach is. I mean, that's how I got all my furniture, all my stuff, all my equipment. Everything was because of his commissions.
Yeah.
But it took taking that chance.
Right.
And so you never really know when you're ready. But if an opportunity presents itself, take it. I would be realistic in what you take on. I wouldn't take a 500 model army, and I would take on a couple guys. I would take on a
2,000-point army
that ended up being like a 4,800 point army.
Yeah.
That ended up being like a 12,000 points in Space Wolves. That's kind of what we're sitting at now. So it's pretty insane. So be realistic, but I've had, my word, all these things are so loud. I've had fantastic relationship with people I've done commissions because we're upfront, honest. When I have an issue, we talk about things. I address things as they show up, and it's just been something that has been a huge blessing. It's been an incredible blessing. Much like,
how many phones do you have in this room?
I have my laptop, 2 phones, and a tablet.
And they all explode every time a text
But not at the
comes
same
in.
time.
No, they all have slightly different timing, so
Yeah.
it's just extra distracting.
It's good, though. We love it. We love it. All that to say, be realistic, but take a shot.
Okay. So what's funny is while you're talking about that, you were talking very much so about the confidence side, and the whole time you were talking about that, like my brain instantly went to the technical side.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say? And I can't speak to this because I haven't done a commission.
Okay.
But what would you say from the technical aspect? Like, what do you need to be prepared for? And not so much to like start doing commissions as full-time work, but like your first commission, what should you kind of go through in your head? What should you have lined out?
So we're assuming you already have gear because you're doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
So there's no additional gear.
Yeah. And I'm not so much talking about gear, but like process.
Gotcha. Okay. So for the most important thing, and this comes from like any, I would say, professional, any kind of just good interpersonal reality, is to have conversation with your customer. If there's ever anything that comes up, talk to them first. If there's something comes up and your timeline is off, talk to them first. Me personally, and you as well, I firmly believe that like I shouldn't charge you for my growing pains. How long should this take? An hour? Okay. Will it take me 4 hours? Sure. I'm only going to charge you for how long it should take. And with Zach, the first thing was, hey man, I'm working full time. We had just had another baby. I started my mini painting Papa stuff, and school. There's a whole bunch of stuff was going on in my life at the time, and I said this has to be like 4th or 5th level of importance here. This is like my whole family's asleep on a weeknight, and it's 11:30 at night. Maybe I could put a half hour in. Right. And he was understanding and gracious, and the project took a long time, but he was understanding.
Right.
But because I had the conversation up front, I wasn't trying to make myself seem more professional than I was. I wasn't trying to, I was very upfront about my prices. Like my prices are a lot lower because it's going to take a lot more time.
Right.
Right. And I also didn't know how long things were going to take because I've only ever painted for myself. And so sitting down, timing these projects for yourself, that's a big deal. Do it now. If you haven't started commissions, do it now. Have a squad of guys. How long does 5 models take me to paint from start to finish to what I would consider tabletop quality, right? Okay, that took me 15 hours.
Right.
How can I get faster? How can I get better? Or is that my standard? My standard is 3 hours per guy. What's your time worth? Understand how long things take. And for me, because it was such a, like, I'm now sacrificing sleep or time with my family or my weekend, what is that time worth?
Right.
Right. Now, if I were just by myself, obviously, like, my prices would be different. But because there's a lot more on the line, I had to charge a little more because, like, that is literally my sleep. That is literally time away from my kids. And so you have to decide for yourself, what's your time worth?
Yeah.
And then, so you've seen how long things take. You've given yourself a gauge for how much your time is worth. You've opened up very honest and constant communication. And then for me, my biggest thing was like treating your customer with utmost respect, right? Like they are taking a risk. And the way I do mine, like I never buy any models. I have the customer either already has it themselves or they have it delivered to my house. So there's
For commissions.
for commissions. For commissions, yes. I never purchase any of the commission models. Okay.
Yeah.
So the customer purchases it, they send it to my house. That's a huge risk. I might just yoink it and run away. So that's trust on their part. 2, I have them pay for the supplies that I think I'm gonna need up front because I want to be able to make sure that I have everything ready to go. And my commission stock is being replenished. That's also another risk. My timeline is heavily impacted by real life things. That's another risk. So there's a lot of risk the customer is taking on me.
Right.
So I want to mitigate that or at least
acknowledge
that risk
Yeah.
by being continuously in communication. So that's sending pictures, that's tagging them on social media, that's always finding a way to involve them in the process. And then you just kind of work your way through it, and it's way more prep than it is actual execution. And so if you have a good relationship with your customer or with your people, and if you have this kind of personality that's almost like a service, like I want to make sure your dream comes to life. I want to make sure that your time and your risk is being rewarded. How can I help you? Like that's the biggest thing.
So would you say it would be a good idea if you were thinking about getting into commission work to maybe find a friend or, family member and be like, hey, that has an army, and be like, hey, can I practice a commission with you? And be like, figure out some sort of price that works for both of you, that's reasonable, and and then kind of go through that process and see like, okay, I'm going to try to bang this out as quickly as I can, and then realize, because I think from watching your process, there were always things that you couldn't anticipate, right? The new models would come out, or something would change, or they would all of a sudden they don't have a paint in stock, right? And you ran out.
Yeah, well, when they stopped selling the Fang spray paint, that was a huge blow. Yeah. Because I was like, well, there goes my entire workflow.
Right.
And half of the army was base coated with the Fang. Now I got to find something else. But yeah, so
so do you think that'd be good advice?
Absolutely.
Is to do a practice run and.
Yeah, or that would be good. That way you can kind of get used to the thing. You can test out any kind of whatever you're invoicing. Like I used PayPal. Some people use other things. Kind of test it out on them just to figure out how it's going to look. And then something else too is like I did some local game store stuff, right?
Yeah.
I went to them, showed them my work, said, hey, can we get into some kind of arrangement where you allow me to display the models and give you my business card, something like that, or I paint some terrain for you, and then like for me, I got 15% off in the store.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that, and that was a great thing to do because you got to have some of your painted models in the store.
Yeah,
and the idea was that they'd have some models or some armies they could rent out, right? And they'd have your card there. And so, stuff like that, just kind of looking at things that may not be super obvious right on the surface.
Yeah.
But be willing to sacrifice a little time, a little money for the future gain of, getting your name out there.
Yeah. Well, it's an investment. I mean, buying business cards, getting marketing materials, that's an investment. But if that's a step you want to take, it's an investment worth making. But I do strongly recommend having some things settled and established beforehand, like your prices. And obviously you can always give discounts. Like there's There's new customer discounts.
This man's discount list.
There's like, oh, you're a teacher, you're in the military, you're a law enforcement guy, you smile nice. You know what I mean? Like, you have so many models that's like this is a huge army discount. Like, you know what I mean? It's up to you. But if they see what your prices normally would be, and then they see that discount, wow, that might be a good incentive. It might be something like, oh, I wouldn't really consider you if I didn't have this discount. And then it's like, ooh, well, maybe moving forward, maybe I can either convince you otherwise, or you can find someone else, kind of a thing, right? But so yeah, that having stuff prepped beforehand, at least a good I always had like Word documents. I listed my prices, and then my price kept like changing, lower, higher. It's funny, like, but yeah. So that's how
prices follow confidence.
Yeah. Man, if I had to make my prices after we put those faces up on that 4K screen, it'd be like free 9. I will pay you. I will pay you money to paint for you. Yeah, that was.
It was the lens.
Good old shot to the old confidence nards.
Confidence.
That was a good one.
Yeah, that was. Oof.
That's ways to prep for commissions and competitions. Competitions for painting and stuff, they always have their own rules.
Yeah.
So just do what they say.
Yeah.
Easy peasy. And then criticism, good tips. We handled that, man. Handled that scandal, right?
The moral of the story. If you're a Garfield, find an Odie.
Find an Odie.
And if you're an Odie, find a Garfield.
Find a Garfield, man.
Yeah. Make that connection and utilize each other's strengths, right?
Exactly. Don't let fear. I think this, I'll be a little sitting on the chair with my little...
Get that soapbox out, boy.
I got it. Okay, we ready for this? Sit down. We already are. But anyway, don't let fear keep you from doing something that excites you. Like, and that's... Sure, I've stumbled quite a bit, and I've run into things that I didn't anticipate. But like at the end, I can say I've tried things that I've wanted to try.
Right.
I've been curious about stuff, so I tried it. Yeah, I mean, how long have we wanted to do YouTube stuff? Since 2017, 16?
Yeah.
Right? We each have terabytes of video on our computer. And every single time it's like, well, maybe it was my microphone. Maybe it was my this. Maybe it was my that. And, right now that's literally like what we're doing as a georb. And I can't wait until we get to do that for our own stuff, because right now we're doing it for other people. But like, we're closer than we've ever been. We haven't given up on it. We still do stuff like this podcast. We still do stuff like the Epic Loot Bros lunchtime game stuff. Like, we've not given up on it, despite all of the stuff, all of the pitfalls, the obstacles, the hurdles, the whatever, because that excites us, And if we sit there and we focus on the negative of, well, we each have 1,000 children, and there's never enough time, and it's not even that funny, or whatever. If we focus on these things that we tell ourselves or we convince ourselves, and it's whether it's true or not. Don't let fear of not being perfect, of not producing exactly what you want to produce, don't let it stop you from trying, right? And that's for everything in life, really.
Yeah.
Like, if you have this passion, there's a reason you have that. Like, us being Christian, we feel strongly that our urges are, not urges, I don't want to use that word, our... what we're drawn to, our talents, our drive is there for a reason, right? And our circumstances occur for a reason. Our situations are there for a reason. And you have two options. You can either let it cripple you and transform you into this person who's afraid to do anything because you're never going to be perfect because the world's not perfect, or look at it as a lesson, make some tweaks, make some adjustments, grow, and move forward.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and if you can make just a little bit of room on that soapbox.
I'll scoot over. Okay.
One thing that I wish I had learned earlier, And if I could go back and tell myself anything, it would be this, that you will experience hardship. And what form it comes in, who knows? But you will experience hardship. You're going through it either way. So if you keep your head up, or put your head down, I guess, drive through it and maintain a good attitude and pull lessons from it, then when you get to the end of it, it had value.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not for nothing.
And and that's something that I haven't always done. And you get to the end, if you don't do that, you get to the end of it and you're like, that sucked. Why? But the reality is you went through it either way.
Yeah.
So hopefully with that mindset going forward, you can take some of these challenges. You can take some things that come up and you can say, you know what? I'm going to take the risk and it may suck. There may be some things that come up that suck, but I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to get better. And,
well, for me, it's like boot camp.
Yeah.
Right. They told us at boot camp, the fastest way to get out of boot camp is to go through it.
Right.
Right. And you had people all the time trying to hurt themselves, threatening to hurt themselves, trying to run away. And that only kept them there longer.
Right.
And then looking at a lot of the trials and a lot of the tests and all these things are designed to break you.
Right.
Especially the beginning of boot camp. It's designed to break you, to make you feel like you are nothing. And by yourself, you are nothing. And your strength is nothing. Right? It's designed to do that. 1 second. But that being said, when you come out of it, if you've put your head down and you've trudged and you've worked your way through it, when you come out on the other side, you are refined. You understand that it's not in your strength; it's the strength of your team, your squad. It's the strength of the unit. It's the coming together and the camaraderie that allows you to push through hard times. It allows you to push through and look for lessons and look at growth. And like they tell you to go do push-ups in the rain to break your spirit. Well, at first it sucks because you don't want to get wet. It's gross. You don't do that. But then someone starts laughing because they realize like, well, this is crazy. I'm getting paid. I'm literally getting paid as a defender of America's freedom to do push-ups in a puddle, right? Well, I'm getting stronger. I'm being exposed to the elements, so my immune system might be helped out. I'm with my friends, and we all are enduring this together. There's so many things that you can come out of that with more than just, I'm wet, like my muscles hurt. Like,
yeah.
You apply that to everything else. You apply that to life. You apply that to commissions, to competitions. You apply that to anything in your life. You encounter hardship with a learning and how is this going to refine me as a person, as a painter, as a whatever. You will always come out of it with something. Might not be a gold medal, might not be a bunch of money on a commission, but it will be something. It will be experience. It'll be confidence. It'll even be like, that's what failing feels like. Yeah. Sometimes failing is important. Failing helps me out quite often because it brings me to the realm of reality. Not everything is going to work out. Not everything is always going to be okay. But don't dwell on it. Don't ever dwell on failure. Let it grow. How can I do it better? So there, my legs are numb for being on the soapbox for so long. But
getting straight motivational poster up in here, buddy.
Where's that cat hanging on that limb? This is that. This is we are your cat hanging on a limb right now. Right? Hang in there, bud. You got this.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott. Perfect. All right, man. Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Awesome. Well, if you're listening to this, thank you so much for listening. Hop in the Discord, hop in the Hobby House. I'll have a link down below. And if you have any other things you'd like to hear about, comments, there's a YouTube that'll be up there too. Just hop in and chat with us. We are very thankful that you're listening, number one. Thank you for Mezgeik for sharing this out this week. That was huge. Thank you for Bobby Clark, aka Red Eagle Studio, for sharing that out. Massive, huge. You guys are kind of what helped me get that confidence. Mezgeik was one of the first ones that I loved watching his YouTube stuff. And then when I found out he's actually like a really cool guy and we're really good friends, like that was awesome.
Yeah.
And then Bobby Clark, like all the things he does outside of commission painting, because he started commission painting because he had to. He lost his job and he had to do it. And now he's running charity divisions. He's always very active and very engaged in helping people, pushing them to get better. They're both very educational. They're both very like a teacher's mindset.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. So thank you both for sharing this out. And I just can't wait to see where this goes.
Yeah, me too.
All righty, man. Bye.